Welcome back, Average Guy DIY fam. In this episode, we are continuing to work on the sailboat restoration, and this will be part 3. In front of us here, we have the water deflector, and it's actually in pretty bad shape. As you can see here when I tug on it, it's actually pretty weak, wobbling back and forth. Because this is a wooden sailboat, we don't want any water seeping into the cracks that aren't varnished or sealed. This fix is pretty easy. We're just going to drill a few holes and insert a few screws there to make this thing nice and rigid again. There is a slight restriction here when drilling this hole. You don't want it to poke out through the other side. We want to make sure this hole is nice and deep so that we can cover it with wood filler, just like we did in the previous episode on the deck. I'm just placing a stainless steel Robertson screw in here. Screwing this in, I want to take my time so that I don't over tighten this. And that's it for that side. When we do this second side, we want to make sure that the screws are relatively in the same place, but we don't want them exactly in the same position because we don't want the screws to touch inside the wood. Again, taking my time so that I don't puncture a hole through the other side of the wood. You'll notice most of the tools that I use are Ryobi, and it's not because they're the best tools, but they are the best priced tools, and they still work great for jobs like this. Just like the first side, we're going to countersink this hole so that the screw sits nice and flush. This water deflector needs to be in good shape in order for it to do its job properly. As you can see, the water deflector now is nice and strong and rigid, and I'm really pulling on it there, so you can really tell. Now the fun ends, and we got to get back to sanding and painting the hull. After you sand, and definitely before you paint, you want to wipe down the hull with either alcohol or some type of cleaner before painting, and make sure it's a nice and dry surface. You'll notice I did minimal sanding, and it's just because a boat hull is painted so many times during its lifetime, especially if it's in salt water. So we're just going to put the paint right on top after a light sanding. Now, a lot of boat enthusiasts are going to kick me for this one, but I am not using marine paint. This boat does not sit in the water. It only goes in and comes out. I will be using Olympic Maximum deck paint, believe it or not, and I find it still does a good job as long as you do a good job sanding and prepping the hull for paint. And because the boat is so small, I most likely will have to be applying this on a yearly basis. Next year I'll probably use the proper marine paint. As you can see, I just poked the holes in the paint can so that the paint rolls back into the can after I pour. Now, right after I pour this paint, a huge gust of wind comes and knocks a bunch of leaves right into my paint. It's like the worst thing that could happen when you're painting. And it just comes out of nowhere too, because there's like no wind all day. So this is probably a sign. I should have went with the marine paint. We're gonna apply one coat at a time, and we're probably gonna end up doing about 4 or 5 coats. That won't all be on this video though. So the next portion of the video is a lot of painting, so just enjoy the music for a little bit there, and if I need to say anything, I'll just pop back in. I love new white paint, it just pops. I also forgot a small paintbrush to bring with me, so I couldn't get into the really detailed areas Until next time. You can really see how beat up the hull really is. It needs a paint job badly. But all the wood, because it's actually built out of plywood, it's in great shape, so there's no issue there. Well, team, we're coming up to the end here. Thanks so much for watching. As always, I appreciate the support. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you can stay tuned for our next episode. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.